Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by Ndis Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello everybody, my name is Minh and I'm your host from Ndis Property Australia, and you're listening to the SDA Housing Podcast, a show that explains, highlights, guides and brings awareness about all things SDA in this ever-changing Ndis world. Today we have a special repeat guest speaker, and that is David Whitelaw from Adapt Housing. David, how are you?
Yeah, good, thanks, Minh. Thanks for the opportunity again.
So here we are in July 2023, and there's been a lot of changes that have taken place the last few weeks. And the three topics we're covering today are the new price guide by the Ndis for SDA purposes, the impact of all this, and also your next 12 months. So, David, take it away.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks have been interesting since we've had a release of the new price guide. And there were lots of changes that we weren't expecting. A lot of those changes were a bit unusual, but we can see the positive impact that they're going to have on providing people with really wonderful housing solutions.
What has your team in Brisbane here, what's been their feedback regarding all these changes in the Ndis price guide?
Certainly the biggest impact was that a level of funding went down. It certainly wasn't expected, and not quite sure if it was in the rules or not, but when we saw a reduction in apartment high physical support, it was a bit of a shock to the system. And for those organisations who are seeing some vacancy in those developments, a way of being able to support that is to look at other participants in other design categories and maybe even some build types as well, to be able to have the opportunity to access some of those apartments. For example, improved livability apartment, fully accessible apartment funding rose substantially, which will give investors and developers an opportunity to look at those additional funds and to see if it works financially and commercially for them.
Have you seen many developments in the last 2 years that were purely improved livability apartments at all?
I have, and we've got some wonderful improved livability developments, in particular the ones in Chermside, that were retrofitted firstly, and another building next door in Playfield Street are purpose-built improved livability apartments. And when we talked to the developer, we've looked at that development and said, let's see if we can bring in some fully accessible and high physical support features to maybe provide some flexibility for participants who do have shared funding in those other design categories that could access the improved livability apartments. We've also got a couple of developments, or one in particular in Logan Home, that's also improved livability. The other thing with improved livability, we see, and we have a lot of villa developments throughout Australia, Southeast Queensland, or from Cairns down to, say, Coffs Harbour at the moment. And when we talk to developers about these villa developments, we like to see if we can support improved livability and fully accessible in those conversations, because we do know that there is a need out there, and we like to support the whole industry, not just one sector.
When would a developer consider doing villas for improved livability? Because the way we see it is, we see a lot of people talking about robust villas in a 4-pack and 6-pack and whatnot. But it's rare to hear someone say, I'm designing and building IL villas. Is that correct or not?
It is. Actually, prior to 1st of July 23, there wasn't a lot of discussions. How we would look at it is that we would be able to put in and support the development of some improved livability villas amongst other fully accessible and high physical support villas. Our model is to support one provider over a project, and that one provider to get a mix of participants and tenancy matching opportunities to come from improved livability, fully accessible and high physical support. Post 1st of July 23, now developers are saying, David, why don't I just build to improve livability and have some fully accessible features that we can still provide flexibility. So more and more conversations are coming about improved livability villa developments.
Gotcha. That's good to hear. So what's the impact of all these SDA price changes? I mean, the government has made these changes affecting decrease of HPS SDA funding to lower the attractiveness, obviously. But where do you see the next year or 2 years, the marketplace itself with regards to SDA dwelling rollouts from builders and developers?
Yeah, so at the moment, that some of the major changes are the fact that improved livability, fully accessible apartment funding has increased. What has also increased dramatically is improved livability, fully accessible house funding has also increased dramatically. And I think NDIS has been NDIA, I should say, has been very strategic in increasing those to fill vacancies that exist at the moment in those two areas, but also to encourage developers and investors to reconsider a good financial and commercial opportunity for improved livability and fully accessible. So we're going to see an increase, I think, in those developments over the next 12 to 18 months.
Gotcha. About a year ago, I spoke to one of your staff members, Dante, and we talked about filling up these so-called empty HPSs around Brisbane. And he said that it's hard to find these IL participants. Is it because they've never been sought after and chased down by providers and investors? That's why they're not coming out of the woods? What's your opinion about where they are? Are they all in legacy homes? Where are they? If they're the majority of the marketplace, they should be everywhere at the moment.
So there's a very clinical response about improved livability participants and their approval. And there's a very clinical approval for robust and high physical support. We've been an active SDA provider for a number of years, and for someone, and we still get phone calls from participants saying, "David, I'm in a chair. Am I eligible for SDA?" And so getting high physical support funding, it wasn't easy, but we could justify why we needed specialist accommodation. For robust, we could an OT and a support coordinator and an SDA provider could justify why someone with robust needed robust. Improved livability is different. Someone with cognitive, intellectual, sensory impairment is the clinical phrase. How do you justify getting SDA into plans? It's a lot harder. And now that we've supported participants with HPS, supported participants with robust, we need to now go through some new learnings, some new education, and support coordinators understanding what's required to get SDA improved livability. And so there's a whole new training session now, because many SIL providers or care providers would have participants that would be eligible. We just need to say, hey, here's an opportunity of having a specialist accommodation to support them.
So you're saying it goes back to the SIL providers, support coordinators in identifying that opportunity for the participant to then move forward with applications to the agency. Is that right?
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. It's about understanding what the requirements are to get approval, what you need to provide to the NDIS to seek that SDA approval. Yeah.
Has that been pretty weak the last 2-3 years because of lack of knowledge and experience by OTs and providers?
Yeah, we're seeing support coordinators are now become very knowledgeable and being very supported too by someone like SDA Services, who's fantastic in this field. They're just incredible. They provide great service and they provide great knowledge, and they're also very comfortable in sharing that knowledge and trying to provide support coordinators with the tools they need to help participants get SDA into plans. So we're just starting to see now support coordinators becoming more knowledgeable, more confident, and having the tools required to support participants getting SDA into plans.
Gotcha. I think with all the initiatives from the NDIS and better experiences from support coordinators, the awareness for investors of how strong the IL category is now, I think we'll see definitely a lot more IL product, IL approvals, IL awareness in the marketplace for the next few years from now on, I guess.
I would agree, absolutely. It'll be interesting to see sort of what plays out, and it becomes viable for investors and developers who have built other other product, whether it be houses or villas or apartments, there's a real opportunity for participants to look at those current developments that maybe have some vacancies or in great locations. We're going to see some of those vacancies.
Sure. Speaking of great locations, the next 12 months, where do you see your organisation expanding, growing into and being part of around Australia?
Well, we've taken the last few years to really get things right in Queensland, and we've got lots of apartments and villas and houses and throughout southeast Queensland, from the Gold Coast up to Cairns, and we've always had some developments in northern New South Wales as well. We've just expanded now. We've just opened up our first development in Tamworth, and we've got some great contacts in Tamworth, and so we've now opened up Dubbo, Tamworth, Armidale, Inverell, Moree, that northern tablelands area, and we've got a few developments in Coffs Harbour, and we're also active in Newcastle there as well. So we've expanded from Queensland into northern New South Wales. I'm very excited to say that we're now active in the Northern Territory. We've got some wonderful projects that are current in Darwin. We've got some great future projects in Darwin, villa developments, side-by-side houses in great locations. And we're probably about 6 weeks away from opening up our first villa development in Alice Springs. We've got some great builders. We're working very closely with LWB, Life Without Barriers, around that development. And we're only, I think it's about 5 or 6 weeks away from completion. And riding on the wave of that wonderful development, there's about 3 or 4 other developments in Alice Springs as well. So Northern Territory is another opportunity for us. New South Wales, of course, is expanding rapidly, and I hope to provide wonderful housing opportunities in Victoria in the next 12 months as well.
Wow, you guys really are growing, aren't you?
We're expanding, and as I said, our model works. We're just SDA providers. We don't do anything else but just do the SDA. We don't sell SDA. We don't do project management, architecture work. We don't do SIL. We understand all those components and we know them quite well, how it all works, and we've got to have knowledge. But effectively, at the end of the day, the only thing that we do is SDA, and we do it well.
You say that as if there's an underlying tone behind those words. We do nothing else. What are you seeing out there in the marketplace that makes you differentiate and you staying in your own lane that makes you guys more appropriate or easy to deal with then?
Look, there are other SDA providers that do project management, that do their own developments. There are other SDA providers that are different to us. We're all different. We're all different agreements and different structures and different processes. And our focus has always been just do SDA and just do it well. But as I said, other SDA providers like to control it a lot more and have their own developments. And having that level of control, it means that they're going to get great product as well. But our core focus has been to support and work with providers who have great locations, who are capable of putting really good builds together and cater for the needs of participants. I guess in better locations than what maybe other project managers can do.
Our opinion, David, is there's no such thing as a perfect SDA provider, because not every SDA provider knows everyone in the system. They can't service every location in Australia, and they just run differently. So, each to their own. Resources and geographic location is a challenge in this market. You can't be everywhere all the time on every aspect, every product out there. So I guess, you guys being based in Brisbane and having grown organically the last 3 to 4 years, you're doing it slowly and efficiently and commercially. That's the important thing. And you guys have a good brand, and you can't always fill every product out there. We know that, but at least you guys have a good brand out there, Adapt Housing, and it's good to see that there are your peers in the marketplace who are just as a good a service out there. But again, every investor or every stakeholder out there should really do their homework when it comes to working with the appropriate professional services like yours to ensure that they're comfortable with what's being delivered on hand, because you can't always have the best price or the best service or the best locations. You have what you have, and you just go from there. Isn't that right, David?
Yeah, it's and appreciate the level of confidence in us too. And we do have created forever homes for people with SDA in their plans, and we've created life-changing experiences, but we also have not been able to cater for everybody. And it's disappointing. It's disappointing to do that. And we keep working towards it, and we keep working towards it. And I'll give you a couple of examples. And I'll go 3.5, 4 years ago, we tried to put a project, we would try to support a project in the Redland Bay area. And it was a robust duplex, triplex villa development that we tried to do. Couldn't find the right location, we didn't have any developments down there. It was a really difficult one to be able to do because it needed a lot of things to come together. We've had a developer come to us recently and identify a site, put a design together. I've shared it with some close families that I've worked with over the last couple of years. And I believe that we're just about to be sign off on that development. And I think it will start construction in the next maybe 8 weeks. And that's been a project that's been a long time in the making. We're probably going at maybe 3.5 to 4 years of that project. It's just a long project.
Do you find that participants and their families do have the patience to wait that long?
Yeah, it's tough. It's hard. A lot of families that I work with, do find it difficult. They're always looking for solutions. And if they approach us and we don't have the development, we've got very good systems and processes that if that opportunity does arise, and then we can go back and support that family. And in most situations, if we're not able to support the development, then other SDA providers are not able to do it as well. And when you get a solution, you just grab hold of it and you run with it. And as I said, I think this one's going to be a wonderful project.
Well, that's good to hear, David. We look forward to hearing more good stories coming out in the marketplace like this, to hear the wonderful impact that SDA providers like Adapt Housing are doing in the marketplace. Any final words of advice from your organisation or you as CEO of Adapt Housing to our listeners who are investors who are thinking about investing in NDIS or SDA, in light of all the changes and the new rules and the opportunities here? Any words of advice that you have as an SDA provider to our listeners as to how they should move forward from here with regards to putting their foot in the water?
Yeah, look, a lot of the product that's coming out at the moment, it's great. It's great, builds, and a lot of people are thinking about having a point of difference, whether it's technology, whether it's, power windows and doors, having that in the build. It might even be a hydrotherapy pool, or it might be an outdoor area that you can have barbecues in larger developments. I think it's really important to think about location. Location, I think, is the key factor. It's about making sure that you're close to amenities, you're close to hospitals and shopping centres and transport. They're some of the key factors. I think probably just be aware of saturation in certain areas. That would be my concern, is that the build might be a great build, it might be a great location, but if there are 15 other builds in that one street, then that makes it a little bit tough on the investor and developer for it to be commercial.
As a provider, can you log into the portal to see registered designs that have been assessed in a certain suburb, to see the pipeline volume coming through? Can you see that?
Yeah, we provide information to the NDIS. All our developments are pre-registered with the NDIS, and that data you can buy that data off, whether it be Housing Hub or a few other different providers. But you can also have a look at SDA Finder as an NDIS website that's quite good, just to give you a bit of an idea where that product is and see if there's any other builds located within the area.
But those resources are showing built product empty or under construction. I'm talking about data in the system, pipeline. Are you saying I thought only providers could see that, if at all, and that's really a survey. That's really...
No, so we provide data to the NDIS through Housing Hub. And there are 88, I believe the last report that we gave, there are 88 providers who provided data. Not all SDA providers provide data, but there are most of the big ones, and most of the major SDA providers provide data to the NDIS. Yeah, through Housing.
But that's still only a sample.
Correct, yeah. You can go to SDA Finder and and change the search to all product, and you will see most existing builds in that area. You'll also see vacancy, certainly, but you'll see most product in there. But SDA providers still have to upload that information onto the system.
Yeah. So the point is the system is still not perfect.
They're working towards it, and as I said, we've seen lots and lots of positive changes over the last few years, and I think we'll continue to see those positive changes come forward.
Gotcha. David, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. It's always a wonderful time to sit down with you to get your learned experiences in the marketplace of SDA at the moment. When we meet next time in the next month or 2 months, what should our topic be next time, do you think?
We'll see a little bit more direction about what's happening with the new price guide. As I said, it's very much data-driven. I think there's a lot of positive aspects that have come out of that, and we'll get a bit more knowledge because we've also got what we call Appendix H in the price guide, and that's supporting participants living with a partner, living with a friend, living with a husband or wife in an SDA property, in a house, for example. We're actually going to start to see some changes, some positive changes come from Appendix H, which was the old Appendix G.
So is there much change between the G and the new H?
No, the theory is still the same, but instead of creating a formula, they've created a table. But it's just how we get to support participants who would like to live in a house with a partner or a friend or someone that doesn't have SDA in their plan. It's about how we get to that space and how we support those participants.
Gotcha. David, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure. Thanks
Bye-bye.
for the opportunity.
Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and just share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.